Thanks for joining the HomeMatters podcast with Eric and Gina Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Eric and Gina Boggs.
Well, hello. Welcome to HomeMatters podcast. We are so excited you took a few minutes to be with us today. Thank you. Let me say thank you up front.
Yep. Glad you're here. And,
yes, we are.
So we get going today. I'm kind of disappointed right now.
Why are you disappointed?
Because of what you said about supper right before we started. I'm not feeling it right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had big plans for dinner.
It's a really
I'm
big
sorry.
letdown.
Got a phone call at the last minute before I left the house, and it was going to be roast in the crock pot, and I forgot to put it in the crock pot.
That's comfort food.
Yeah, not having any comfort food.
You were going to have some meat and potatoes, right?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I
that
know
would
that's
have been
what
really
you
good.
love.
So we're not getting that now.
Well, we might have meat.
So
and
you
potatoes,
see
but
why,
it
if
won't
you're
be
watching or listening out there, you see why I'm so distraught.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just distraught.
I'm sorry.
I am a wreck right now inside.
You need counsel.
You know, what we're talking about today,
this kind of fits.
I just kind of start off with that because, again, it does fit because there's so many people. You know, the thing is that in life, there's a lot of things you can control.
Yeah.
But there are just some things you can't, you just can't always control them.
Yep, you can't control the fact that I forgot to put the roast in the crock pot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But even worse than that is I can't always control the feelings that I have from that. Those emotions.
That's so true.
And, I've always said it this way, you better make sure you control the things you can control. You better lead those things you can lead and leave the rest up to God, right?
Absolutely.
Do what you're responsible for.
You can't control the emotion that you feel like on the spot with, whatever happens. But I think we can control how I respond to the emotion, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like this example, this illustration I've used. We were in Hawaii. A few weeks ago, and we went out to a rock to jump off of.
Oh, my goodness. I want to go back. Can I go back?
Love to jump. I love to jump off cliffs. I love to jump into water from high places. And
he does.
So I went out there.
I don't. I just stand on the shore and I take the pictures and the videos.
Yeah, but I enjoy stuff like that. I know it's kind of, some people think it's, not being good steward of life or whatever, but a little unsafe. It's really not unsafe. I wouldn't do it if I felt like I was really going to get hurt. But, I love that kind of risk taking and that, that kind of adrenaline. Yeah, I've always said I'd love to parachute. I'd love to skydive sometime before I'm done. That's on my bucket list. But they tell me that they don't have a parachute that will support me when I falling through the air and I pull the chute.
That's terrible.
And but with that again, it's I'm just a little above the weight, so I'm going to get under that weight. And
I didn't put the roast in, so
I got all of that.
Start
I'm way
dieting
off
for
right
supper.
here. Okay, well, let's get back.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just following you.
But I love to jump off of stuff, and the fact is most people out there, if you just think about jumping off of a cliff, it'll make your stomach kind of turn butterflies or whatever you want to call it.
That's why I don't do it.
And just thinking about it, and when you're jumping off of a cliff or something, off a rock like that, you're going to have that adrenaline rush, those emotions, those feelings. And I don't know how I could help that. There's not anything I can do to change that. But if I respond to just the way I feel, I can get in trouble in a hurry, because those feelings will make you do things with your body that'll get you out of control. And if you hit the water out of control, most people that have done this know what I'm talking about. You hit the water out of control, it's going to cause you a lot of pain.
Sounds like you might have done that before.
I have. But you cannot just respond to the feel. You can't respond to the emotion. You got to keep the thing under control that you can keep under control. And that means that your arms and your feet and your posture, your body, all of that you got to keep under control. And I think that's a good picture of life. Because there are a lot of people, because of the way we have these feelings and our emotions, if we're not careful, we'll do things because of our emotions, or we'll respond a certain way, or we'll act in a certain way,
That's
or
so
move in a
true.
certain way, that it causes us a lot of pain because we respond to the feeling. Is that making sense?
It does to me, yeah. It causes us trouble, especially in relationships, right? We're talking about
in
marriage and family.
our family, our kids.
And you're going to have emotions. And listen, emotions are not bad. Right? It's how we respond to them. God created us as emotional beings. So, whether it's fear's even anger, some of those that we look at so negatively sometimes. Hey, God created those. So there are times in our life when it's important that we feel those emotions.
He made us with the ability to feel, right?
Exactly. But
not bad.
when we are out of control in the way that we respond to them, can quickly get us in trouble in relationships. When we say things or we act in certain ways, that just leads us into destructive behaviors, right?
Yeah, and again, just one of the proverbs there, I'd ask you to read one of the proverbs I think makes so much sense, because
I love this.
most
when it comes to emotion.
Most everybody can
relate, right?
Right?
Proverbs 16, verse 32. This is
amplified.
Yeah,
right?
amplified version. He who is slow to anger is better and more honorable than the mighty soldier. And he who rules and controls his own spirit than he who captures a city.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. And that is a picture of someone who is in control of their emotions. Not that they can control every emotion they feel, but that they are in control of how they respond to those emotions, right? And there's great strength in that.
Yeah, I mean, again, what a statement. He rules and controls his own spirit.
Sorry, hit the mic
is
there.
greater than he who captures the entire city. And our point is this today. Again, we're just going to talk a few minutes today about the thing you can control. And I've seen this. I've tried to live this out. We've tried to instruct our family.
This has been so huge in our home. I know. Our kids would absolutely say we've heard this a million times before, right? But one thing that we can't control, right, is our attitude.
Yeah. Every day you make that decision as to what your perspective or your take of life on life will be, or your situation.
Yeah.
And again, I know situations vary. There are people in tough situations out there. You got circumstances that you're dealing with that are beyond my imagination. I understand that. I'm not. I don't want to.
You don't want to downplay.
I don't want to belittle anybody's situation. But what I would say is, even with that, I know the situations I've been in, they're bad places we've been in life. You may not be able to control all of those things. You may not be able to control all these situations. But I can always determine my attitude about it. And I can always determine the effort that I'm going to put in.
That's right.
So those are two things that I always looked at and said, you know what, even with my own life, with you as my wife or my kids
our
or
children, just anybody, in our home,
anybody I'm in relationship with. These are two things that I would say if you're my friend, I expect you're not gonna be my friend if you got an attitude that just is bad all the time.
Stinking attitude all the time.
Stinking thinking. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be in a relationship with that effort. People who we talked about tenacity last time and have determination. I want people around me that are going to put the effort in.
That's right. Going to
put
do
the work in.
Right.
If I can say it that way, I always say I don't like talking about marriage being work because it sounds like a bad job, But if you put in the effort, you're attentive to it, then it does make all the difference. And we get that example, right?
Absolutely, from the scripture over and over again.
Yeah.
Philippians have the attitude of Christ.
Yeah.
But I was thinking just a minute ago when you were talking about situations, man, people even and maybe you've seen some people, I've seen some people in some horrible situations before, and they navigate through that with such a beauty and a joy that has to come from a relationship with God. Man, we'd encourage you in that. Make sure your relationship with God's what it's supposed to be, and allow the joy of the Lord that He deposits in our life to be your strength through these times. And that in itself will help our attitude, right?
Yeah.
And I think of the word in Colossians, set your mind on the good things. Even when we're surrounded, by things that could give us a bad attitude or be a good reason for us to have a bad attitude. I think that we can consciously, as believers, the word says we can set our mind. We can think on better things. We can experience the joy of the Lord.
So in marriage, what we're saying is, you may have some feelings that you have, or things may get sideways in your relationship at times, and you have all kind of this gamut of emotions. They're coming from everywhere. All these things and thoughts and feelings.
Hurt, disappointment, anger.
And you can't always control those suggestions or those feelings.
That's right.
But what we are saying is you can control the way you think about it, your attitude about it, the perspective you take from. Again, perspective is it's a architectural term that talks about the image, that perspective, usually it's a 3D image that you get a proper perspective of. So we're saying that you got to look at it from every side. And if you look at it from every side, including God's side, maybe
that's
what God's doing in your life,
right?
Yeah, then maybe you walk away with a better attitude. You get a better perspective of it. And that whole passage you referred to in Philippians 2, it says that
I love that. I could have read
he was
some more
equal
of
with
it.
God.
Did you want me to read some more of it? You can refer to it. Philippians 2, 5 to 10.
Yeah, but it says Jesus was equal with God. It wasn't robbery for him to claim that. It wasn't some type of fraud. He was equal with God, but he was willing to become a human. He lowered himself and became obedient. And we just celebrated Easter and all that Passion Week, and he became obedient even to death, even the death of a cross. And again, there's that place, where every day we choose to be like Jesus. Again, he had emotions.
Yeah, he did. It says he was touched with everything. He experienced everything that you and I experience. So there were things, when there were times when Jesus got angry. Yeah. When he was hurt. When
think about him in the garden,
out of control, man.
The night before, he's got all these emotions going.
Well, sweat drops of blood. I was reading something about that, just the fact of the intense stress that his body was under for that to take place.
Cause the capillaries to burst.
He has been there.
So feelings, I'd say he felt something.
Yes, he did.
But I would say that in that, the attitude was, not mine, but yours be done. Not my will, Father, but yours be done. And the effort, even the death of a cross, he was willing to go the full way. And you say, well, I'm not Jesus. and I get it.
This is true.
But his spirit is living in me.
That's right. He enables us, right?
Yeah. And let me stop right here and just say, if you're not already a follower, I just ask you to consider. I had a guy sit beside me just a few weeks ago on a plane, and he told me, he said, I'm probably coming from a opposite end of the spectrum from you. And told me he was not a believer. He was actually an atheist. But, I asked him some questions. But the reality is all of us as human beings, there are places in our life where we have all these feelings. But as a believer, if you're not, I'd encourage you to find that as a hope in your life, as a source of your life. Yeah. But even if you're not, there's still places in your life that you have to realize that if I just bounce off of all my feelings and all my emotions.
Man, I mean, how many can you have in one day? I mean, you can be all over the place. And I know, we women sometimes we take that whole emotion thing maybe, but I know you men as well. Come on, there are a lot of emotions.
Y'all get all twisted up sometime now.
Ladies, we do. We get all twisted up. We do. And
your feelings.
So do you guys. You get all twisted up.
No, we don't do that.
And sure you do. But every one of us, I mean, it's so easy. And And if you live your life on what I would call the emotion roller coaster all the time, you're going to wear yourself completely out.
Sure
you
will.
say, well, it's work, to conquer those emotions or to work through those emotions. No, I think it's harder on you when you just live the emotion roller coaster.
Yep.
And what that does to a relationship and what that does to home life. And when you're up one day and down the next, and nobody can figure out what's in between, there's no stability there.
Yeah.
I mean, that affects everything about home life, our children included. And so the whole emotion thing, but the effort. I mean, what about that? How can we speak to that?
That in marriage and in parenting, and again, we always spread this out, all relationships, you can't always control those feelings, but here's what happens when you just give in to feelings. If you just bank on the things that you can't control, and you always react to those things, you can't even control those.
Right.
You got to go back somewhere and say, all right, what do I control? I control my attitude, my effort. Here's what I kind of like to spell it out. I've seen a lot of, we've been around sports a lot, we're sports people, but I've seen times where a team that's really not as capable, really not as talented, not as skilled.
We've seen that happen lately.
Walk into a place, and they will come out with a victory on the other side. And usually...
And everybody's going, what in the world happened?
Yeah, it usually is because the team that maybe was superior, they come in and somewhere in their mindset, somewhere in their attitude and in their effort, it's just not there that day.
Right.
And that's when the underdog can achieve. But boy, what a sour taste that creates in the life of that team.
That's so true. When
they know
they should have won, right?
Yeah, they should have won. They should have been victorious. They should have come out with a win, but they live beneath and below their potential. And you know what? I know that comparison may be kind of odd, but I think there are people all the time in life that deal with that they
just frustrated.
Yeah, because they don't control their attitude and their effort. They don't do those things that they can control. They always come in less than what they can be. Boy, isn't that true in marriage?
It absolutely is. And just with effort, I have to think about the scripture that says everything we do is unto the Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's my being a wife or a mother, or if it's my taking out the trash that day. I mean, that's included in everything, right? So everything I'm doing, my effort should be as I'm doing it unto the Lord. Man, that would change our attitude and our effort level right there.
Well, our motivation is different there.
It's totally different.
If
it's to Him.
I'll be honest. If I go on my emotions, I get really demotivated really quick.
Demotivated.
Yeah. Right. If I just bank on my feelings, I can throw in the towel as good as anybody.
Because sometimes, come on, you just don't feel like it, right?
Right.
I don't feel like working out the conflict today. I don't feel like being nice today. I'd rather not even be kind today, right?
Yeah.
You ever have a day like that?
But again, if I'm responding to all those things that are again out of my control, those feelings that come, then that's what happens, and I create a train wreck in so many ways, so many places in our life, in our marriage. But if I say, all right, I can't help all these feelings, but I know one thing. I can keep my thoughts right, my perspective right about our marriage and our home and our family.
Keep my attitude right.
And I can do something about my effort. I can do the things I know I can do. Right?
And that's what it comes down to. Sometimes you just got to do the things you know you're supposed to do, whether you feel like it or not.
Yep.
Right? You just do what is right.
That's exactly right.
That way. Just do what's right.
So today, here's the takeaway. Attitude, effort. You control those. Do something about it.
Sounds good to me.
Hey.
See you next time.
Your home matters,
yes,
by the
does.
way. God bless you.